Hello, my name is Melissa Gonzalez,
My name is Isabel Suarez.
and in this video, we are going to be talking about current medical crises that are rising in the everyday world.
The first one we talked about is poverty and insurance.
The second one that we're going to talk about is warfare and our war heroes.
And then the third one we talked about how global warming can affect healthcare, and as well as topic of anti-vaccinators. Okay guys, the first topic we're going to talk about today is poverty, especially in the Rio Grande Valley. With insurance, it has gone up over the past few years, but mainly this year as well. The main thing about that is the copay. A lot of people aren't able to afford. So with the copays, a lot of people can't prioritize their medication because it's not affordable at the moment, especially for elderly patients and elderly people who really need medication. Is there anything else?
Also, us living here in the Rio Grande Valley, we do have a very high immigration rate, especially since we're 20 minutes away from the border. A lot of people come to the United States looking for the American dream, but they often find themselves struggling in the first few years since most of them come, they don't have an education, and they're new to this country. They do often settle for jobs like minimum wage, like construction, like whatever they can find to survive of. And most of these jobs, either they don't offer medical insurance, or they do offer it, but it's also very hard for them to pay medical insurance when they already have all these other bills to pay: housing, light, water, like if their kids are going to college. And sometimes they just can't afford it, and they also can't afford to miss a day of work just to go to the doctor's office. So most of these people ignore their symptoms, ignore the doctor's office because they don't have the money or the time to go. I've also noticed, since we do live in South Texas, most of the people here, their first language is Spanish, or they don't know English at all, or they do know English is like the very minimal. And we're also getting a lot of doctors from different areas around the world. Most of them do not speak Spanish. And also there has been a lack of interpreters in the medical field. And sometimes you will get a nurse that speaks like very little English, very little Spanish to interpret, but that can also cause miscommunication between the doctors and the patients, and this could eventually lead to like a misdiagnosis or wrong use of medication and stuff like that. And some of these people are very scared to go to the doctor, or they feel insecure going because they're like, what if I get a doctor that doesn't speak Spanish and all I know is Spanish? So most of them will just not go to the doctors overall because they don't feel like they'll be heard, or they just feel insecure that they will not know the language of the doctor.
So in week 11, we had to listen to a podcast. It was the challenges of delivering healthcare to people. Dr. Carlos Del Rios emphasizes the importance of culture, understanding, trust, and the community-based approaches to improve healthcare. He argues that healthcare providers must go beyond traditional methods and create inclusive systems to ensure everyone receives proper healthcare, regardless of their background or status.
And Dr. Carlos de Rio in that statement is often talking about immigrants, undocumented people, or people that are often overlooked in their communities that have a high poverty rate. He makes them feel included and takes into consideration their background stories, because not everybody has an easy life. And he really takes into consideration their background stories, and that is what makes patients gain trust into their providers. And that's how most people do gain the trust from a patient, and most providers do that. And that overall gives them a good healthcare experience, which is what we really want in this world.
Yeah, and what we would like to see in the Rio Grande Valley as well.
So the second topic we're going to talk about is warfare and the doctors that are involved in this environment. So nowadays we do see a lot of war doctors, as they're called. They're medically trained doctors, but they're trained differently. They're trained to act in action, kind of like ER doctors, where you never know where you're going to see or who's going to walk into the ER. that's kind of how these doctors are trained. You go into a war and they don't know what they're gonna see, who they're gonna come across. Especially in recent years, there has been a lot of war going on. um, Gaza, Iran, most of these places are getting um, bombed, destroying hospitals, classrooms, and there has been a lot of stories of children, like Miriam, from the New York Times article. She was a little girl who had I believe her arm was broken and she had a lot of internal injuries. Also, a little boy who also had injuries and his brother was just killed. These doctors really have to understand the importance of compassion when they're around these type of situations, because these children and these people just went through a traumatic event, and eventually some doctors or soldiers, they do develops a form of PTSD, but they also have to learn to put their patients first because they're the ones who are really struggling. They just went through something traumatic. So they have to understand the importance of compassion, emotional intelligence, especially.
I also wanted to talk about how in the New York Times article, how doctors had to improvise during these situations. They would use, they wouldn't have gowns, so it would be mostly like streetwear, and then they would have the bladder catheter as a tourniquet. So in these situations, they don't really have all the medical tools they need, so they need to think fast and quick and what they could be using that's very resourceful to them and that what's going to get the job done. In this situation, it could be very stressful for the doctors to go through this. Also, we're trying to maintain that compassion and thought process of what can I do, act quick now, especially when there's going to be a lot of people. They never know what situation they're getting themselves into.
And most of these doctors not even treating their own people. We have seen a lot of stories of American soldiers that are treating people from Iran, Gaza. They're really, that shows the type of compassion they have, not just like for their own American people, but for overall the people in the world. And that truly is what makes a doctor great and a hero. And they usually, as Isabel said, they don't have the tools to properly treat these illnesses or like fractures, diseases that they have, internal injuries. So they will have to act quick and use whatever they have, because they really don't have time to waste and think about the proper equipment, sterilize everything. They just have to act quick in order to save these people's lives.
Yes, which also creates the language barrier. Do you want to elaborate on that a little bit more?
Yes, so mostly we do see a lot of war in Iran, Afghanistan, Gaza. So they will use so it will be like the language barrier. They're obviously can't communicate. So they kind of just have to act based on facial expressions, what's hurting, external injuries. I mean, some of these people can have internal injuries, but they wouldn't know because of the language barrier that exists there.
The next topic we're going to talk about is global warming and how it can impact our healthcare systems. So the first topic of that is heat-related illnesses. So the warmer climates can affect people by causing dehydration, strokes, like heat strokes and stuff like that, especially in older people and younger kids as well, with being outside and everything like that. So this will cause chronic illnesses sometimes, and it's something we see a lot in the valley, especially because it is very hot down here. So to keep everybody hydrated, and especially during these times, is very important. And then the next one and the final one is spreading of infectious diseases. So warmer climates allows different carriers of insects like mosquitoes and stuff like that. A while back, there was this huge thing going around, like articles about mosquitoes, especially during COVID times, that people believed they were getting sick because it takes the blood and then it's taking somebody else's blood too. And just even that little tap of that transfer can affect you, and that goes with everything else as well.
Yes, and also talking about COVID, I believe during the COVID pandemic, we did see an increase of anti-vaxxers, especially when the COVID vaccine came out. They did believe that the vaccine would give them COVID. It would like worsen their chances of getting COVID and stuff like that. And recently I read an article and I saw in the news that there has been an increase of the measles. And, you know, the measles has been around for a while, like a long time already. but we would not see a lot of cases because most of us are vaccinated against the measles, and we wouldn't get them. But now that there's an increase of anti-vaxxers, especially with the new generation of parents, and that's when we see the increase of all these diseases that we have been seeing before. Sure, we will get a few cases, about like 200 to 500 cases a year, but now we're seeing thousands and hundreds of thousands of cases a year of these diseases that we haven't heard of in such a long time. And it's all due to parents not deciding to vaccinate their kids, saying that, you know, people believe that their kids would get autism, or they are not going to talk, or they're not going to walk if they get all these vaccines. But I mean, it has been scientifically proven that these vaccines help their kids against these diseases and infections, that some of these like diseases can sometimes like take the kids to the hospital, and they'll be in the ICU sick, and these parents don't believe that. And there has been like a huge conspiracy, especially the past years, that autism is caused by the vaccines, even though it has been proven scientifically many times from research articles that it's not. It's mostly genetic. And I do believe social media has a big part of this. Most people, they believe stories that they see on Twitter, on Facebook, and they kind of influence off each other. And these people are reading fake news about like that this happened to my kid because they got like the MMR vaccine, they got 6 vaccines at once. But I mean, most people are not trusting doctors nowadays, which these doctors go through so many years of schooling, they're learning so much, and then at the end of the day, for people not to trust them, it kind of really disrespects them. Okay, so in this video, we did talk about a lot of different medical crises that we see. We talk about poverty, insurance, the language barrier, warfare, our war hero doctors, anti-vaxxers, and climate change. And I do believe one that is really bigger now is the anti-vaxxers, as well as global warming. Each year it's getting worse. And even I do believe we can help our planet.
And then what I thought was a big issue that's going on right now is insurance, especially with the copay costs that have been getting outrageous lately. Especially for elderly patients or people that have multiple kids and can't afford for every single kid. I mean, kids do get sick a lot and they pass it on to one another like crazy. So that's something that's very important and needs to be looked on right now, because medication is a priority for everybody who needs it. And yeah, I hope y'all enjoyed this video and wrapped up medical issues that are going on in the world right now.
Thank you.